Because I think lots of people see the young kids and the Olympics and the Paralympics and stuff without realising there's this little group who is getting bigger and, you know, starting to develop people who are realising that actually you can still do this sport with a disability being older.
And that's Dr Sophie West, today's guest. Imagine being told by doctors for nearly a decade that you should never run again. Imagine enduring a massive pelvic reconstruction surgery, dealing with nerve damage and waiting 9 long years for a bone that just refused to heal. Now imagine, fast forward in a few years, you are a British para-triathlon champion, a British para-duathlon champion, and you're casually placing in the top spots against able-bodied athletes on the world and the European stage at age group. Oh, and you're doing all this while you're working full-time as an NHS doctor and you're raising 2 young boys. Today's guest is living proof that boundaries we're given are sometimes meant to be completely shattered. We have a great chat with Sophie on this episode and find out what an inspiring story that she's gone through in such a short period of time. We learn more about para-triathlon, para-duathlon and what it takes and how things are classified. So it's a really good insight to the para world. And that's coming up. So welcome back to the Age Group Multisport podcast. In the last fortnight, had a bit of a training setback, the usual calf niggle, calf issue. Pleased to say that it's back to normal, whatever normal is, and I'm back running, I'm back doing full training, and I'm in week 2 of Operation Dam Buster. And you can follow the story on our YouTube channel, which is the Age Group Multisport Podcast YouTube channel, where I go through just basically weekly training and trying to hit that start line at the Dam Buster Standard qualifier at the end of June. Also on that YouTube channel is the Triathlon penalty box, where we have a bit of a laugh, and it's like a room 101 for triathlon, where we put all the things that we dislike into the penalty box. So that video's on there also. And you'll also find all the previous podcasts that we've done on there too. And just a quick thank you for the nice reviews of the book that I've just published. It's available on Amazon, the 1001 Triathlon Tips. And a few people have mentioned it on social medias, and I'd just like to thank you for the support. If you're interested, I'm going to leave a link to the 53 tips landing page that you can have a look at, which then will take you to the full ebook that's available, like I said, on Amazon. So have a look, check it out, leave comments in the box and let me know what you think. I've been dropping the odd tip on socials just to give people an idea of what the book entails. It's more like a go-to book when you're maybe going to do a swimming session, let's say open water, because that's something that me and Mrs. C did yesterday, our first open water of the season. You could go into the book, have a look at some of the tips on open water and maybe think about it while you're doing your session. So it's more of a reference book than anything else. But yeah, go on to Amazon and have a look. Been watching plenty of sport as usual. I follow this podcast, you know that I love watching sport, especially cycling, and fortunately the Giro d'Italia is on. We're going into week 3 as we speak, and it's I think it's a foregone conclusion, but that doesn't take away from the excitement. Also been watching the Triathlon World Championships over there in Yokohama. That was a really good couple of races, both ladies and men's. Matty Hauser won the men's, and Alex Yee on his first race back after well over a year, I think, came 5th He did really well. I think he was pleased with his performance. He's got a bit of work to do, but I'm sure he'll be back at the top. And then in the ladies, it was a bit of a surprise. Beth Potter ran through the field and got into second place, and she was just pipped on the line by Tilda Manson, the young Swede. But it was such an exciting race, and it was really nice to see Tilda Manson actually come to the front of one of these races finally. So yeah, a couple of good races there. And then the weekend just gone, it was the ladies T100, and Georgia Taylor-Brown won it, which was absolutely amazing to watch. Me and Mrs. C were sat glued to the screen. So yeah, really enjoyed watching those bits of different sports. Couple of recommendations on the podcast front. The first one is Doctors of Running podcast, and they were talking about whether soft shoes reduced injury risk. So that was quite a good one, because obviously nowadays we're all in carbon plates with thinner, softer foam. Well, not necessarily thinner, but very much softer foam. So the podcast discusses whether these soft shoes are reducing injury risk, or are they actually going the opposite way. And then the second one was the Effortless Swimming podcast, and they were talking about swim technique and the hierarchy of needs, which was really, really an interesting way of breaking down swim stroke and putting it in like some sort of order. So yeah, I can definitely recommend those two podcasts. Right, I think that's about it for now. We shall see you on the other side. I hope you enjoy Sophie's story.
My name's Sophie West. I am a mum of two boys. I've got two boys, they're 10 and 6. I'm based in Ashford in Kent, and I work full-time as a consultant musculoskeletal radiologist in the NHS. I got into triathlon in 2024, so relatively late, I think, and I love the sport. And I've started competing in the age group stuff last year, and I also compete in paratriathlon events.
What did you do growing up as a kid, sporting wise?
So I mostly just school level sport, really. I did swimming at school a lot. I did hockey. I loved hockey. Went on to did a lot of hockey at university. All the sports you kind of do at school. I did do quite a bit of swimming from 2012 to about 2016 for about 4 years.
When you say quite a bit, what does that extend to?
So I was probably swimming 4 or 5 times a week with a club.
Right.
Regularly, and I had a British para swimming classification at that point.
Right.
And I did some of the regional and national races, but just with my club and things like that.
And what was the stroke that you
front crawl?
Front crawl.
But very short distances. I did 50 meters and 100 meters, which is quite different to triathlon.
Yeah, well, that's normal for swimming, isn't it? That's
yes.
Yeah, different ball game.
Completely.
So with that said, though, you'll have had a good technique that'll be in place. You'll be a good swimmer in the standard of triathletes.
Yes, I think, and I also think when people think about doing triathlon, for most people, it's the swim that puts them off. So for me, I wasn't worried about the swim. For me, it was the run and the bicycle that kind of were my stumbling blocks.
Yeah, which is, you're right. I think the majority of people and guests we've had on, yes, there are, like yourself, the occasional athlete that has done swimming since they were like 3 or 4 and been in clubs and carried it on. But
I'm nothing exceptional at swimming. I'm really not. There is a lot of much faster triathlete swimmers out there than me, but I've just got a solid stroke and I'm not afraid of the water and, those kind of things, which I think has helped me on that front.
Yeah, I mean, that counts for a lot. A non-swimmer myself, I wished I was like you and had that earlier on. And
that comfort in the water. Yeah,
well, I'm quite comfortable, but I'm just not very good. But, I wished as a younger kid, I wished I'd learned better and had better technique. And then like you don't have to think about it. You just get in and swim and do your thing. But the downside to that is you've got the other two that you've got to bring on now. You've got to learn all about the two other aspects, aren't you? So
Yes,
because it's three sports, we're all at a disadvantage in some
in some
way,
of them,
shape,
or
or
one of
form,
them.
aren't
Yeah,
we?
I worked during the Olympics in 2012. I discovered, I have to get a little bit of the backstory because otherwise it just
Yeah,
doesn't
yeah.
make sense. Fit and healthy most of my child life, the odd breaks here and there as you fall over, stuff like that, but nothing really significant. And then went to university, became a doctor, and then me and my husband thought, like, so late 20s, thought, oh, you've moved out of university and the sport's all gone, it's all provided for at university, you don't really have to think about it and stuff. And we thought, okay, so maybe we'll try a triathlon. It was just kind of kicking off, sort of, late 2000s, something like that, becoming quite trendy. And so we both started training, and I tried to run, and I couldn't. I kept getting really bad groin pain, and it turned out that I was born without proper hip joints, but it wasn't picked up as a child, and my hip joints didn't develop properly. So my socket part of the ball and socket was a bit like half a socket rather
Right.
than a full socket
Okay.
on both sides. And therefore all the cartilage had torn in my hips already literally at the age of 27. So I ended up having massive reconstructive surgery because too young to really have hip replacements. And where they broke my pelvis in 6 places, and along with multiple other surgeries and things like that, and then screwed it back together to
Right.
make new hip joints out of my own bones. And one of those bones never healed. Okay, it's called an osteotomy when they cut the bones, as opposed to when you break it, just a fracture. And it never healed. So there was always one part that was not joined together. And so I was always told to avoid impact sports because, as you can imagine, probably running around doing lots of impact on part of your pelvis that's not properly joined up. Not probably the best idea. I worked during the Olympics in Greenwich Park, but I saw that one of the swimmers had the same hip condition that I had. And it
Okay.
hadn't really occurred to me that I knew I had some limitations, but it hadn't occurred to me that it could count as, I didn't really know very much about parasport. I don't think many people did before
Yeah.
London 2012. And I think it was a big introduction to lots of people and me. And so I contacted some people who in swimming, and they said yes, come along to a trial event, and they managed to get me a swimming classification. Again, the top end, like I'm the top end in paratriathlon. And so I started swimming, and I started swimming training. And for the first time in a long time, having always enjoyed sport and then had it all taken away from you through illness and like disability and being unable to walk and pelvises that aren't joined up, I suddenly found like I could do something again. And so so that's how I really got into swimming. Yes, I swam with a club and stuff as a kid, but it really was school level stuff. It wasn't really anything more than that.
Mm.
And so I kind of swam from 2012 to really 2016, 4 years of swim training based in London, which was absolutely amazing. And that kind of, for me, gave me that love for exercise again that I felt had been lost, or at least taken away from me in a way that I didn't know how to do it again
Mm.
with my dodgy hips. So that's how I kind of got into swimming. And then I had my two children in, oh gosh, how old are they? So 2015 and 2019. And I had an x-ray after they were both born. And that non-union that had been not healed for 9 years had healed. And I think either the pregnancy hormones, the extra weight in the pelvis, or as I say in one of my talks, my children magically aligning the stars, it healed.
Yeah.
And anyway,
Amazing.
so that was the start of 20. So up until then, I didn't run, didn't do any cycling at all. I
Mm.
think I'd done one spin class ever and thought it was the most horrific experience of my life, and I never went back. And I didn't own a bicycle. So that was the start of 2020, and obviously COVID also happened in 2020. So my journey to running started in 2020, along with many people's
Yeah.
with COVID. Um, I was still on maternity leave at that point, so we moved out with my parents in the countryside because otherwise we were in a small 2-bedroom flat in London. My
Mm.
husband was like, "Let's get one of these bikes for doing some exercise," and he showed me like a Peloton bike at some ridiculous cost, and I was just like, "Are you serious? Are you absolutely joking? How can anyone spend that much on a bicycle that doesn't go anywhere?" this is me having no idea how much bicycles actually cost. um, but anyway, we got a Peloton bike and I got hooked, completely hooked. So, and the Peloton app was how I started running as well.
Right.
So that's how I started running, with Peloton on both the app and with this bicycle. That was sort of 2020, then obviously through COVID. I finished my training as a radiologist in London in 2021 and got a job out in Ashford in Kent because we wanted to move out, give the boys more space and just get out of London, quite honestly. And once we settled down here, I think it was the end of 2023, I thought, do you know what? After all these years of that first initial goal of thinking, why don't we do a triathlon? That was in 2007. Why don't I try, 17 years later, and do one?
Right. And how did that come about? Why did you start thinking about that then?
So when we moved out to Ashford, life's just different out in the countryside. We're in a suburbs town, to in London. It takes so long to get anywhere in London, and the commute was so exhausting that I was just too exhausted to really think about joining any clubs or anything. But when we moved down here, I found a running club, and I started with the running club, and then someone in the running club was also a member of the tri club.
Yeah, that's usually how it works, isn't
Yeah,
it?
exactly.
There's always some crossover in running clubs.
Alison. So she was a member of both. And I
Right.
was like, triathlon. I was like, oh, maybe I can make this work now. Because I had a garage and I could train at home. The boys just a little bit older now that, I could leave them for half an hour. I can do a bike ride in the garage and things like that. So, I'm all about setting new goals and things like that. And every year before Christmas, me and my husband don't do New Year's resolutions and stuff, but we kind of say, what kind of things would we like to achieve in the next year?
Yeah.
And for me, so I said, well, I want to try a triathlon. So that's how I decided to do my first triathlon.
So you would have had great support with knowing Alison then.
Yeah, honestly, it's Ashford Tri Club are an amazing support and community, and so accessible in a way that I just didn't really have in London. So that was a huge impetus as well.
Yeah.
And also finding out about races and things like that.
Yeah, yeah.
And
Oh yeah, I mean
bicycles.
that's it. If you've got somebody with knowledge
Yeah,
around you, then it's just you're like a sponge. You just start
yeah,
asking questions and
yeah.
learning all the time. So it's a massive massive thing to be able to have that resource. Walk us through then the stages of, like, you decided that you wanted to do a triathlon. You knew some people in the running club. How did it develop from there?
So I decided end of 2023, 2024 was going to be the year I did a triathlon. I actually saw an advert or something for para triathlon, and again, like with the swimming, because I knew I had the swimming classification, I was like, oh, I wonder if I wasn't actually looking to get classification. I just didn't even know enough about the sport at that stage. But contacted them because I was wondering if they could guide me in the right directions as to any additional things and the right races to enter and things like that. But anyway, the crux of it is I managed to get a para triathlon classification quite quickly, actually, which was great. And my classification is PTS5.
So just going through that classification, then what's the process? What did you have to do? And then tell us about what that classification is, just for
Okay.
people who, like myself, are not really aware
Yeah.
of what it means.
So to get a classification, you have to have a disability or condition that is recognised by British Triathlon, World Triathlon. It has to result in physical impairment. So you have to have some kind of functional loss. Okay, you can't just have the condition and you're completely fine. You have to have function loss, and you have to be able to demonstrate that. And so they require certain medical documentation, physio documentation, and things like that. Then you have to go and be assessed, and it's done by two people, and they just get you to do a load of stuff, and they measure things and measure strength and measure angles and measures what you can move and things like that. It's tailored depending on the disability. Okay.
Yeah.
So there's different types of disability classification in paratriathlon. There's the PTS classifications, which are 1 to 4, 1 being the most severely impaired and 5 being the least severely impaired. And those are for people who will be running
Okay.
and cycling on bicycles. So I've got quite limited rotation and loss of function and muscle strength in my legs, particularly around my hips. So that's my PTS5. Claire Cashmore, who's one of the she's ranked 2 or 3 in the world, and Lauren Steadman, they're the 2 top British PTS5 athletes. They've both got a limb loss below the elbow, just a single limb loss below the elbow.
Yeah.
Billy Munger, who's quite well known, particularly in the racing circuit, he's just got a classification. I think he's PTS2 because he's got above knee on one side and just below knee on the other.
Yeah.
So that kind of gives you a guide for the PTSs. And then you've got your PTWC, which are your wheelchair athletes. So these are guys who will be doing a hand cycle for the bicycle and a racing wheelchair for their run.
Right.
And there's 1 and 2 for that. Basically, depending on the level. Usually the ones are quite high spinal cord injuries, so they've got a degree of we call it truncal ataxia, so loss of significant core control from quite high up, as opposed to someone who's got a much lower spinal cord injury or issue, which is much lower down, but they've got that truncal control. It's to do with the truncal control. And then you've got the PTVIs, which are the visually impaired athletes who can't see as well or are completely blind, and they run with guides or do tandems on the bike.
Cool.
So that's classification and how I got my classification currently. So I got that, and then I think I entered a local sprint triathlon with a pool swim because I thought, start easy. And also it was winter and I didn't really know where to start swimming outdoors at that point. And I bought a bicycle 6 weeks before, a blue one, which I think sums up my knowledge of bicycles at that point, which is still not great either. And so I went along, turned up to this sprint triathlon, which was great, really well organised. I've done it again since, and I won my age group. And I was to be honest, I hadn't even occurred to me that could happen. So we'd already gone home by the time they'd done the prize giving, because it just hadn't even occurred to me. And one of the coaches texted me later texted me like about an hour later saying, "Are you still here?" I was like, "No, I went home." It's like, "Well, you won the age group." So that was quite cool. So that was my first triathlon. And then because I had the para triathlon classification, I knew that the Arctic One Para Tri Festival was happening at Eton Dorney. And so I was like, okay, a para race, that'd be really good to kind of gauge,
see where you're at,
see where I am, and also just race with other para athletes. And what I didn't realise, it was also the British Para Triathlon Championships that day, and I didn't realise by entering one you kind of were entering both. So I turned up and realised I was racing in the British Para Triathlon Championships as my second ever triathlon.
Wow.
But there's a little bit more to the story, because obviously that first triathlon was a pool swim.
Yes.
And I thought, right, I knew this next race was open water. I was like, right, I need to have a go at that, because obviously all my swimming background was in a swimming pool. And so again, with Ashford Tri Club, went along to the lake one day, and we've got a local lake that we can go swim at. And it was pretty cold. I think it was 13 or 14 degrees.
But what part of the year was this?
It was beginning of June.
All right. Yeah.
It's actually much warmer now than it was this time 2 years ago. And anyway, I got my wetsuit on. I got swimming with my little tow float, and as we were going up the lake, and I was swimming with other people, because I said I wanted to go with other people the first time, because even though I have confident swimming, like open water is a bit different. Anyway, I started to struggle to breathe, and I was like, oh God, is it just the cold or whatever? Anyway, and I started to get a bit wheezy, and I was like, oh, this is a bit weird. I just thought, I'm just going to stop, catch my breath. And it went away, and I was like, okay, carry on. But it kept happening. And by this point, we've got the loop, it's a big loop, 500 meter loop. And then 500 meters up, 500 meters back. So it's a kilometer loop. And we were always all the way up the other end of the lake. And I was like, this wheezing is not getting better. I'm really struggling. And I said to the guys, like, I think I'm just gonna have to take it really easy on the way back, because I'm really struggling. And as we started swimming back, I started then coughing, and was coughing up like this frothy sputum. And it suddenly hit me like a ton of bricks, literally. Obviously being a doctor, and we see quite a lot of channel swimmers, and I was like, oh my gosh, is this swimming induced pulmonary edema? And I was like, I think it is. But I was 450 meters away from the dock at this point, and actually starting to feel quite unwell. and not able to breathe properly. And I said to everyone, the guys I was with, I was like, I think I've got a problem. We're going to have to get back. And we all kind of, I draped myself over my toe float and everyone just kicked slowly back with me. See, this is what I said, it's a nice supportive community. Anyway, we got out and like my breathing was rattly as anything. And all I could think about was, okay, so I know exactly what this looks like on a chest x-ray. I even know exactly what it looks like on a CT scan. I haven't got a clue how to treat it or what to do.
All right.
Because I don't really do any of the treating. I very much just do the diagnostic side with radiology. So I phoned a friend, phoned one of the A&E consultants I work with, and he was like, "What's that noise?" I was like, "It's my breathing." He was like, "What?" He was like, "You need to get to hospital straight away." So they wanted to call an ambulance. I was far too embarrassed to do that. And I drove myself to hospital and actually ended up needing assisted ventilation.
Right.
Wow. So that was 3 weeks before that race. Not deterred by anything. I couldn't believe how normal my lungs felt the next day, actually, after being on this ventilator. But anyway.
So what causes that then?
So swimming-induced pulmonary edema is actually not as uncommon as the medical literature says, if you actually start talking to people who are involved with the sport. More common in females, more common in cold water, more common if you're wearing too tight a wetsuit. So I have to be very careful about my wetsuit fitting now. Once you've had it before, more likely to happen again. Now, I did some research and I saw some specialists, and there is a medication you can take which is known to help prevent it. Now, my husband thinks this is absolutely hilarious, but it's Viagra.
Is it really?
So an hour before every open water swim, I pop my little blue pill of Viagra to help prevent me getting swimming-induced pulmonary edema.
Right.
And luckily, from a sporting perspective, shall we say, it's not considered to be a performance-enhancing drug.
Right.
Which is quite lucky.
Viagra was developed, wasn't it, for
pulmonary hypertension?
Something else. Yeah. I'd listened to a podcast years ago about it. And then the side effect was what it then.
100%. So yes, I take Viagra before I do open water swimming now.
Wow.
Anyway, so dosed up on Viagra, I turned up to the British Para-Triathlon Championships, just thinking it was a para-triathlon race, and I came second.
Wow, congratulations.
So that was quite exciting. Having never really got like a proper like national medal before. And then it kind of went from there. I started doing some more of the para-triathlon stuff. So then I heard about the age group stuff. And that again was at the Eton Dorney event, because I saw quite often there's an age group qualifier happening at the same day. So I was like, oh, what are you all doing? Why is your race different? What, and so someone told me about it. And I was like, oh, that might be quite fun. And so I did some Googling and found out that, you can enter it. And obviously by that point, I'd missed all the qualification events for that year because I just didn't know about it. Do you know what I mean? Like, but I found out that you could enter the aquathlon based off a triathlon time. So and because I came second, I was like the 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, depending on the event. And so I submitted my times for the aquathlon, and that's how I ended up at Pamplona and Pontevedra last year, which was great. And those were my first experiences. And so this year I've been a little bit more organised, and I'm having a go at new things.
There's so much to go for.
Right.
If you don't know, then, actually how you've got into it's quite a nice leading into the whole GB age group thing, isn't it?
Yeah. So I've done the sprint duathlon qualifier this year already, and I'm going to do a standard distance duathlon qualifier in October, and then I don't think I'm doing any of the triathlon. I'm doing the standard distance. I'm doing a standard distance triathlon as well, but qualifier, but that's literally the day after the British Championships.
Right.
So I'm not really expecting anything great from that one. I'm not even expecting to qualify, but it's because it's my first Olympic distance, because all the para events are either super sprint or sprint.
Right.
So I'm building up I want to try some longer distance ones. So doing my first Olympic distance this year, and I want to do a 70.3 next year. So that's kind of my goals going forward. And I'm going to carry on doing the Para Super Series for the most part this year. I can't do a couple of the events just because of work commitments. Obviously, being a doctor, we have to work a certain number of weekends, and it just happens. So I'm going to continue doing those, and that's kind of try new things. And I love the age group stuff. It was so friendly and fun, and there really was an element of fun with it alongside the slightly serious side as
Yeah.
well, and I was like, this is an amazing way to travel the world.
Mm.
Like, if you're not sure about where you want to go on holiday, so pick a race somewhere and go and do it and have a bit of a holiday.
Yeah.
And so that's why, like, we'd quite like to go to Edmonton next year because it's in July, which should hopefully be school holidays as well. So we can bring the boys, go and do a race, and then hopefully explore a bit of British Columbia. I've got to qualify for something first, though. So
I'm sure you'll have no problem. I mean, if you're prepared to, do as many of the events, and throw your hat in the ring, then,
Mm.
you know, I'm sure
Oh,
you'll
well, so
be.
this is the other thing. I just obviously coming at it from a parasite into all these able-bodied events, you don't quite, I'm still kind of gauging what it's worth me entering and worth me
Yeah.
doing. So I didn't get an automatic qualifying spot on the sprint duathlon, but I'm the first, on the percentages they do.
So you'll get a roll down. You've got a
Yeah,
good roll down
I'm currently the
chance.
fastest
Yeah.
percentage on a roll down, like 105%. I'm currently the fastest roll down position. So I'm
Yeah.
hoping
Yeah. I mean,
that
that's
means I
what they're
might.
there for, isn't it? There's
Yeah,
20 spots.
yeah,
And, I oftentimes qualify by roll down
yeah,
more so than getting an outright queue. And it's
yeah,
just, it's you're still the best of the next, the best of the rest. So,
yeah. And then I've
it's
got the
still
standard
valid.
distance to have a go at in October as well. Again,
Yeah.
that'll be a new distance. So again, trying something new.
That's what it's all about. And like there's plenty to go at, isn't there? And plenty to keep
Yeah.
you occupied and trying new things. And
Oh,
yeah,
my drama at the moment is if I want to do a 70.3 next year, where to go? The locations are all there's so many, and the
yeah,
locations are all incredible.
yeah,
It's
absolutely.
it's where to go. I think I'm kind of leaning towards Valencia at the moment.
Nice. Yeah, yeah.
So, but
Why
I'm not
not?
100% certain.
Yeah. Well, it's a goal to have, isn't it? That's the
Yeah,
thing, and it's learning and just developing, and it's a journey that we're all on, and it never stops. The more you do it, you just try and get better than you were last year, or
yeah,
at
yeah. It's all
least
about
don't.
progression because
Yeah.
that's the other thing with the para events is so I'm coming at it. So I won in 2025. I won the British Para Triathlon Championships for my category, and I've won the Duathlon Championships for 25 and 26 this year
Okay.
already. But obviously, as we're getting older in the age group athletes, I'm going to go up an age group category this year. There's young kids coming through, and obviously with it all being short distance, they've got the power,
Yeah. Yeah.
which I think I'm starting to appreciate. As you get older, you start to lose a bit of the power, but you can gain endurance.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
so I think I'm not going to be able to hold those titles for very long.
It doesn't.
But
I
it's great.
mean,
It's great to be able to say you've got them.
absolutely. As we know, time moves on. There's always somebody
Mm,
coming up, and to try and take
yeah.
your place, and
Well,
that's
this is the
just
thing with the triathlon. It's such an inclusive sport, and this is what I want to kind of try and convey. I actually applied to be a yellow jersey ambassador, and I didn't get it. But on my form, one of the things that I said I wanted to achieve if I got it was I wanted every single race organizer in the UK to have a section on their entry form or on their entry page as to how suitable it was for wheelchair athletes and for PTS athletes. And as in, so for example, like big hills are not great for the wheelchair guys.
yeah.
Like it's really hard. They're much better on the flatter rolling courses
Oh, sure.
and things like that. And I think, that'd be an amazing thing if all the race organizers could say, right, this race is suitable for wheelchairs and para athletes because of these factors. And like just outright say if it's not, because,
Yeah.
some courses are not appropriate.
Yeah. And
And the
nobody
same for
wants somebody to
swims and
turn
stuff
up
like that.
and fail.
Yeah,
That's
exactly. So
yeah.
I still think it'd be a nice thing to try and achieve.
Yeah.
Maybe a
Well,
project going forward.
again, it's people like you who are involved in it that
Mm.
need to try and make these changes, happen.
Yeah, because
It's
that's the
got to
thing. All
be,
the young kids coming through the pathways, they've got their races picked out for them by people and stuff like that.
yeah.
It's the other people who are going to have to pick and choose their events,
Mm,
like locally, and that need that kind of extra information.
yeah. So just going back to the para side of it then,
Yep.
you were talking about the championships, and you were saying that there was nothing for like paras in age group. Is that right?
Yes, there's nothing for paras and age group. Age group is just if you've
Completely.
got if you've got to get the qualifying times. You've got to get a qualifying spot
Yeah. There's
essentially,
no
and it's based
separate
on your age.
side.
No, but at the multi-sport events, there were para categories. There weren't masses of people doing them, so it was quite hard to gauge exactly what the backgrounds were. And it was mostly the local countries. So obviously, Pamplona and Spain, there was quite a lot of Spanish para
Okay.
athletes. But as I said, it kind of made me realise that these were there, and that's how we pitched it to British Triathlon as, yes, you've got your elite athletes and you've got your ones who are in your club and stuff like that. We're not trying to take away from that or try and get in on that. Most of us are not interested in the rigidness that those pathways dictate to you. It doesn't work for an adult lifestyle who has a
No.
job, who has a mum. I can't be going up to Loughborough every few weekends. If I go somewhere, I want to be able to stay somewhere nice, not share a room with someone I don't know, and I want to be able to eat and drink what I want when I want.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I want to have control over my training. That's partly my slightly OCD personality. I need to have control. I need to be enjoying it. Someone starts telling me what to do, that probably goes. But it did make me think that, is there a window for all of the para athletes out there who aren't good enough or never going to be good enough, even though young ones coming through, to be able to see that there's somewhere that they can go and race in big races still? Like there are for, like the younger age group athletes, they know that they can carry on doing it. Whereas actually the younger para athletes, if you don't get on the pathway, but actually you still really like the sport, there's not a lot of guidance for
Yeah.
sport on where to go.
So I was
To
going to say
know
this
that,
this pathway is really for the
yeah, it's
best
the
of the
elite
best,
of the elite of the
and
elite,
the youngest as well, not so
Yeah,
much for the. So
yeah.
where currently do when people sort of like drop off from that, where do they go? What do they
So
do?
as I said, I've only been involved with it
Yeah.
within the last couple of years. I don't really know. Most of the ones that I know have dropped out of, it's usually I've gone to university and discovered life, I think.
No,
But
but for the older ones like yourself, what happens to them? People who've been in the sport longer than you have and have
yeah,
gone through the whole process. Where have they gone, or have they just stopped? What's happened
um,
to them?
so I know a couple of them are doing much longer distance. I think
Right.
Mel is definitely doing loads of long distance wheelchair stuff, like
Yeah.
across Europe and things like that. And I think people just move on and find other things.
Other stuff. Yeah.
Um, but I think it's going to be a really nice opportunity for those, as I said, those slightly older cohorts, again, who are new to the sport as well. Because if you think about it, lots and lots of people come into their disabilities through injuries, later in life, or
Yeah.
accidents and stuff like that. To be able to know that they can still progress to do things at quite high level without having to think I'm going to go to the Olympics. And I think these para events at the multi-sport events are a lovely opportunity to be able to offer that. And
Yeah.
obviously, like with everything, you have to have qualifying standards, and the qualifying standards they've set are pretty good. It's not just, you've got to work hard to get them and train hard to get them, a bit like the age group ones. It's not just like anyone can show up and say, oh, I want to be in the age group team. You have to work for it and qualify for it. So they've set guidance for all the different categories and for all the different types of races that are on offer. And as I said, we now need to get our international classifications, and then it's a bit of a watch this space. No one's entered one yet.
So I was going to say, so you've got to do this independently of British Triathlon then?
No, British Triathlon are definitely supporting us
Right.
because they have to. They've got the contact with World Triathlon. We can't call up World Triathlon and say, "I want to enter." A bit like with the age group, you can't say, "Oh,
No,
please enter
no.
me in that age
Well,
category." It has to come
what I'm
from.
saying is that's established. Age
Yes,
group's established, whereas
yeah. So
obviously
again,
this seems to be established in certain countries because of what you've said. Certain
yeah,
countries have got at certain multi-sport events have got athletes there racing, whereas
yeah.
British Tri don't.
Not yet, but
Yeah,
we're
yeah, yeah.
hoping that maybe
That's what
this
I'm get.
year.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
what I'm getting
exactly.
at.
We're hoping that maybe this year
Yeah, yeah.
we might, or if not this year. So I've got a aquathlon place for Abu Dhabi for in November. So obviously that's all a bit of an unknown at the moment. But if I get my world classification in June, I'm going to push to get that switched to a para entry.
Right.
and then we might be able to race,
Okay.
and I might be the first one.
Right. Yeah. No, I
If
mean
not, hopefully for Edmonton.
it's somebody's got to be first, haven't they? That's what I'm
Yeah,
saying. It's
exactly. So this is
progression,
still
isn't it?
really new, and
You
everyone's going
open
to be
you open the
learning.
gates for
Yeah,
everybody else by doing
e-
this.
everyone's going to be learning, and British Triathlon are going to be learning
Yeah.
along the way as well. So it's new for them as well. So it's not like they've got experience in entering athletes into these events either. So
Yeah.
as I said, it's a bit of a watch this space at the moment, but I think it's been a really positive shift from them, which has
Yeah.
been really nice.
It's quite surprising actually that we've got to this day and age and there isn't anything.
I think the para classes at these group at Multisport thinks are relatively new
Right.
overall.
Okay.
I don't think it's something that's been there all along. I mean,
Hmm.
I haven't gone back and looked, but
That would make sense.
so I think it's just relatively new overall.
Yeah. Yeah. So you were just saying before we started
Yep.
actually rolling about you having to go over to
The
Tarragona. Just explain about that.
There's an age group race over there. I think it's the middle distance
Okay.
triathlon, I think. Anyway, there's definitely an age group event over there because I know Florian's going and racing.
Right.
And we were told when they brought out the policies for these multi-sport events for para that there were two classification opportunities this year being offered by World Triathlon in Tarragona in Spain and at some place in America in the middle of May that I'd never heard of.
Okay.
Anyway, I wasn't going to be able to get my documents done in time for that. But I was like, do you know what? I could actually get to June. I'm actually racing, doing the Escape from Alcatraz Triathlon in San Francisco on the 7th of June.
Oh, nice. One of my bucket list races.
I entered the ballot on a complete whim and got a place.
Brilliant. Wow.
So going over to do that, and literally I'll be flying back, staying overnight in the airport, and then flying out to Tarragona and then hopefully flying straight back home again.
Yeah. So what does the assessment entail then? Again, is
Apparently,
it?
it mirrors British Triathlon.
All right. Okay.
Okay, so it's going to be exactly the same process that I did here
Right.
in 2024, 2025, 2024.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's going to be exactly the same.
Right. Well, at least you know what you're going into.
Yeah, I know what to expect.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
Well, that's brilliant, and to have the opportunities going forward is just fab, isn't it?
Yeah, and British Triathlon have sorted that for us.
Yeah.
They've had to organise that for us, so that's really
Yeah.
great.
Yeah, yeah. Good on them. Good on them. It's nice to see, nice to see it happening and progress on their part as well.
Yes.
I mean, it's a great story, and you've come such a long way in such a short space. Well done.
Yeah, no, as I said, it's kind of one of those things. I kind of stumbled into it. And I'm still terrified about. I've actually just bought a new bike, which is really exciting. I bought a TT bike, which I'm really pleased about. I actually saw them did you go to the World Triathlon show?
No, we didn't
No.
go. We were going to, and then we decided that we wouldn't.
I went because we're not too far away, and there was this company called Try Harder, and I was saying to them, honestly, their shop is amazing. I drove to Norfolk because I was like, my problem is with my hip.
Oh, I saw your post, yeah.
I'm
Yes.
not very mobile, and so I was like, I don't know if I can get into a position on a TT bike, and it was really hard to try and find places that can help you. Anyway, Ben, who runs the shop, he was like, come on up. I can put you on lots of different things and do lots of different things, and then we'll see if we can. And I was very much like, well, what if I can't? He was like, I am not going to sell you a bike you cannot ride. And I went up there and it was amazing. And so yeah, I've got getting a TT bike, which I'm really excited about.
And what bike did you end up with?
It's an Argon 8 E-117 that's black.
Nice.
And they're gonna put the TT bars up particularly high for me.
Yeah.
Slightly smaller cranks. And all the electric gears on the thingies.
Yeah.
That's exciting.
Yeah.
And on the position I was in, actually felt loads more comfortable than the position I'm currently in on my road bike. Which honestly, if you see photos of me on this road bike, you're like, what? I look awful.
But if you haven't had a bike fit and you don't really know much about cycling, I think you can be excused. So that you'll find the TT bike if you've had a bike fit and it's specifically sized for you. It's going to make a massive difference, an absolute massive difference. in all different
Yeah.
aspects of cycling. So
So I've
yeah,
discovered some of the duathlon qualifiers were all draft legal, and I won't be able to use it. I have to go back
no,
to
you
using
won't.
my
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Well, that's all right.
Yeah. Yeah.
You'll have one for when you need it now, and
Yeah,
then
exactly.
you'll upgrade your other bike, and you'll get something that you can use, which will be better, and you'll go and get a bike fit for that as well.
Maybe.
But no, I mean, it depends on where you're going to go. You know
Yeah.
what you want to race in, whether you're going to do the longer distance or whether you want to do. It depends how much you're
Exactly.
going to do.
And it's about trying that's the thing, it's all about trying new things, and this is what I'm loving about it.
Yeah.
And I may not continue doing it at quite the intensity of training that I'm doing right now,
Mm.
but I see myself, you can carry on doing triathlons for
Well,
ages. It's a
look
sport
at
for everyone, isn't it?
look
Right?
at the age
I
groupers
know,
who are in their
exactly.
70s and 80s. That's who we
Exactly.
all want to be when
Exactly.
I'd rather be them than be somebody in a care home.
I
And
know, I know.
this isn't just about the sport. I say
It's
it all
about,
the time. It's about longevity, isn't it?
yeah, 100%.
And I
And
think
our
once
bones are going to be so strong.
all of those things, once you've got into this mindset and you surround yourself by the habits and the
Mm.
lifestyle,
Yeah,
then going on personal experience, everything else sort of fits into place. You look
yeah,
at your diet better, you look at your sleep pattern better.
yeah.
In my case, stop drinking alcohol, and it's all the little things, that
They do add up.
yeah, and it's not just for the sport, it's for
Mm.
as we're
For
getting
health
older,
and life.
you
I
know.
know. And yeah,
And it's not
100%
necessarily
agree.
that I want to be like live to like a ripe old age of 100 and whatever. It's
What you
about
want to
having that.
do is live really, really well
Yeah,
up to a certain age
yeah,
and then go really quickly.
yeah. But it's having that quality, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. 100%.
That's the key. It's about having the quality up to that point, and then
Yeah.
yeah,
I also do think there's a certain personality type who does this kind of thing that is particularly sensitive to endorphins. For me, and like for me, it's an absolute drug.
yeah,
The buzz from it's real,
yeah,
and I appreciate that exercise does not give everyone that.
yeah.
And I think you also have to be slightly sadistic to yourself
Hmm.
to be able to do some of the training and push yourself in the way that we sometimes do.
Yeah, and I think the other thing is when I've been out for the last 8 days with whatever a flu virus
Yeah,
something, and I didn't want to train, which is totally unlike me. Didn't feel like it, didn't want to
yeah,
do it. But when you come out the other end of something like that, you miss it.
yeah,
You
100.
know what I
Yeah,
mean? Because it's
yes,
part of what you do.
yeah.
We train pretty much every day. We're
It's
doing
my
one
mental
thing or
health me
other.
time.
Yeah,
It's my mental
it's
health me time.
yeah. Again, it's not just the physical side; it's the mental side as well, isn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I hope that I'm inspiring my children to,
Uh,
you know, do exercise and stuff.
Well, if they're like I've got two boys as well who are now 30 and 28, and they see what me and Kate do, training and racing and stuff, and it does rub off. Definitely
Yeah,
does rub off.
yeah. My 10-year-old did the London mini marathon this
Well, there
year.
you go.
It
There
was
you
just
go.
amazing.
Yeah, yeah. And it is that you might not think so, and at times they might push back from it,
Yeah,
but eventually, as they're getting older, they'll actually see your
yeah,
lifestyle and what you do, and yeah, it
and then
doesn't.
understand that that's normal.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. Cool. Well, listen, thank you ever so much for sharing that. I
that's
really
okay.
enjoyed listening to your story and chatting.
Yeah,
Got a few quick fire questions and then I'll let you go and
okay.
get on with the rest of your day. And the first one is, what's your favorite bit of kit?
Maybe my new TT bike.
So that's a given. What else? Your
My Peloton bike.
Peloton bike. Yeah,
Yeah,
because that's pretty much what
yeah.
set it all off, wasn't it? That.
Huge part of my journey,
Yeah,
and I just love the platform and everything. So yeah,
yeah,
100% Peloton or the Peloton app. The Peloton
yeah.
platform. I'd say
Yeah, we are not sponsored by Peloton. I just
no,
want to
not
put
at all.
that out. Yeah. But if they'd like to sponsor the show, I wouldn't mind. No, that's good. That's a good one. And again, it's stationary. It's doable. It's at home, isn't it? It's like, but
Yeah,
it's whatever works, isn't it? As long as you're
it's
out there
whatever
doing
works.
something
Yeah,
and gets you moving, I think that's the most in. Yes, we're into triathlon and all the other multisports, but it doesn't have to be that. It can be anything. And I always people say, "Oh, I don't really like." Well, find something that you like to do, and you don't find that it's a bar.
you
You
need to
just
find
want to
your
do it.
thing. You need to find your thing. Yeah.
Absolutely, 100%. What does a week of training look like at the moment?
Okay, so obviously working full time in the NHS, I usually have to be at work by 8 o'clock. So I'm usually up by 4:45, 5 o'clock. Usually have a quick gel to get me going, and then I've got carbs in my fluid and some extra gels and sweets. I can't get up any earlier to eat enough beforehand, so it's
No.
just that's
Yeah.
during the week. Usually about an hour and a half training every morning. On a Thursday, it's quite often 2 hours because I'll do an hour at home and then I'll go for a swim. I've got a bit more flexibility on a Thursday morning. And weekends tend to be some slightly longer sessions, 2.5 hours, depending on boys' schedules, husband schedules, my work schedules, various other schedules that we fit it in. I usually have Mondays as a kind of more recovery day.
Yep.
So either a really easy just spin or gentle jog or a walk, or and then every 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks, I'll have a complete day off because I just need it to
Yep.
recover. I tend not to exercise in the evenings because I'm getting up at 5 o'clock. Got to pick the boys up from after school club. 5, 6 o'clock, we're not usually back until home. It's, eat, feed them, feed me. We all go to bed at 8 o'clock. My husband works and lives up in London during the week, so I'm on my own with them.
Okay.
So I just go to sleep with them at the same time.
Yeah. No, I mean, you're up early, so
Yeah.
it's whatever works, isn't it? That's the thing. We all have to make our own plans and
Yeah.
life
I only do
allows.
yeah, I only do one swim a week. That's all I can fit in
Yeah.
logistically. The rest is all a mixture of bike and tread and
Yeah.
strength.
Well, again, makes sense, doesn't it? Because you've got the swim nailed with all the years of swimming,
Yeah.
and then you're newer to the bike and the run. That makes
Yeah.
perfect sense.
And I'm
On
aware
this,
I'm only maintaining. It's and what I've realised is that all I'm doing is maintaining on the swim.
yeah.
I'm not going to be able to improve on the swim with that kind of
Hmm.
only swimming once a week, but I'm
But I
able
think,
to maintain.
yeah, I think that's worth doing at the moment, isn't it? Because
Yeah,
learning and getting stronger on the other elements, I think, is
yeah,
probably more important, and then you can
yeah.
pick up on the swimming when they're all pretty much close together.
Yeah.
So are you coached? Are you in a club? Where did you get your plan from for all this
So
training?
obviously I have the Ashford Tri Club and Ashford District Row Running Club, but they don't set me programs. I've actually been working with a coach called James Billham, who's actually he's a wheelchair para athlete. He had a spinal cord injury about 3 years ago, I think. So he's again relatively new to parasport
Yeah,
himself, but has a background in British cycling and was a British cycling coach before.
right.
So we've been working together through Trinity Triathlon, and it's really good. We get on really well. We're both kind of understand that we're relatively new to. He's relatively new to the coaching. I'm relatively new to do it. So we're both learning a lot on the way off each other. But it's quite good. We've got a really good dynamic, and I like that.
I think it's important, isn't it, when
Yeah,
you're investing in a coach. I think that's one of the major things.
yeah.
Um, any hints or tips for anybody like yourself new into the sport?
Don't be afraid and just have a go and don't worry. So many people say to me, "Oh, I'm not good enough to join a running club," and I say that's so wrong. That anyone can join. Our running club's got like categories, like groups, running groups for everyone of every like ability and speed. And I think that's the most important thing. Don't be put off by thinking you have to be good to join these things or to have a go. You don't.
Yeah,
Anyone can have a go.
perfect. We've discussed your shorter term goals. So the final one is, what are your long term goals? What do you want to achieve longer term? And we could be talking 5, 10 years down the line.
Honestly, going back to a little bit of our conversation, I want to stay healthy, I want to stay happy, and I want to stay fit. And I want to be able to carry on doing sport, and I want to be able to carry on doing my job and enjoy my boys and enjoy my family. And that's pretty much it.
Perfect. Yeah, perfect. Well, look, it's been lovely to speak to you. I'm not going to take any more of your time up. All right.
Okay, cool.
Okay,
Thank
thank you ever so
you.
much. Bye.
Bye.
Bye. What an incredible journey. A huge thank you to Dr. Sophie West for taking a quick break from her NHS job, her family, and her intense training schedule to hang out with us today. Much appreciated. And a big thank you to Alison Smith for pointing her in our direction. So from a para athlete making waves in the able-bodied fields to chasing world championship titles, Sophie is truly one to watch. Good luck to Sophie in all her endeavours this year, and maybe we'll see her in Abu Dhabi at the end of the year in November. Good luck getting to Edmonton. As always, a big thank you to everybody listening. Really do appreciate it. You can find all the links, as always, in the show notes. And if you're an athlete, and if you're an age group athlete, please do get in touch. We're always looking for people to come on the podcast and share the story like Sophie's done. And you can drop us an email at the age group multisportpodcast@gmail.com, or you can DM us on any of the socials. We're on Instagram at amp_podcast. We're on Facebook at Richard Joseph Conway, and our YouTube channel is the Age Group Multisport Podcast YouTube channel, AmpGB. If you've got any questions or comments, please do leave them. If you're watching this on YouTube, in the show notes, in the comment section. Please do, if you're listening to this on Spotify or on Apple Podcast, please do leave us a review, because that really does help the podcast get out to other like-minded people. So once again, thanks ever so much. And as always, don't forget, stay safe, keep training, and love the process.
The Age Group Podcast. The Age Group Podcast. The Age Group Podcast. The Age Group Podcast.